this party started. My posse. Yes, so hello everyone. My name is Jukka and since there will be coming the upcoming mini-comic book in November, which will have a couple of the classics ones as well, I thought I'd talk about the classics mini-comics that we've gotten so far. And since I got a lot of help from Axel Jimenez and other very friendly fans, there will be a lot of Easter eggs and homage stuff in it. I won't be going over too in depth with the stories themselves, because the bios are such a big topic that it would take weeks and weeks to start going over it. I even have some notes because I wanted to make sure that I don't forget anything, but if I do, my apologies. You can scream the correct names and all that, which I will misspell or whatever. But yeah, so it all started in 2012 with the announcement that we were gonna get the 3 new mini-comics all over for the classics line, which was a big deal because at the time there was no mini-comics made, and I'm not sure if fans were too hopeful that it would be viable. So for the 30th anniversary they got the extra budget for it, and that's awesome that they were able to make 3 of them, and they chose the Powers of Grayskull story that was left unmade in the 80s. The reports early on from Scott Toigu were about that he would continue the story, but it became very evident clearly that these were going to be their own story. They had nothing to do with an actual ending of what the story would have been about, because I don't think we haven't found or researched any notes on how the story would have actually evolved. So, and I haven't seen any notes. There could be some outlines for it, which Scott showed at one point, but hopefully more information could be uncovered at some point. But these are their own story that were made to be next with the story already told in the classics bios. And the first one was somewhat of a retelling from the 87 story, adding new bits, and from the second onward it went its own path, and by the third it was clearly getting a speedier pace, because in the third issue there's a lot of cut points in the story that the bios explain to a degree, but if you haven't read any of the bios and you only had the mini-comics, because some fans would like to get those toys that had them, and you were left wondering what happened between a couple panels, and the pace would change since on. Next year we got the one mini-comic, Secret Origin of Skeletor, which was a subscription exclusive, and looking information about the young people's memories for this mini-comic. Not everyone remembered that it came with King He-Man toy. Some, when I asked, mentioned that maybe it was the pre-Eternia He-Man, and I found that interesting on a personal level that the story doesn't include King He-Man any which way, while the previous 3 issues that came with Thunder Punch He-Man, Snake Man-at-Arms, and Dragon Blaster Skeletor did feature these characters one way or another, which is and has been the point of the mini-comics to somehow advertise the toy that you were getting. And these were created so you would have more characters introduced, especially the 30th anniversary characters, which I'll get back to later. And the next year was another one-issue subscription exclusive, which came with the unnamed one. And while the previous issue with Original Skeletor was its own standalone story and set in past times as Songster and Scrolls were telling it, this is a starting point of the Fall of Eternia story that they were planning at the time, and well, also around the times things changed, that the roadmap, as it were, needed to be shortened so people would get the main variant characters in the line. And all the things that they set up were left a bit on the air, that would it continue, would there be more mini-comics, and what was the story gonna be?
Jukka, I have a question. The first 3 comics, were they Dark Horse and then everything that's been DC after that, or?
Yes.
I don't know anything about these comics, and I just noticed the DC logo was popping up in the 4th one.
Yes, the first 3 ones were done by Dark Horse, with Wellington Alves as the artist, and then when they got the 4th one done, by that time it went to DC when they were making the ongoing comic, but they managed to get Wellington back to illustrate it. And thanks for reminding me. It created a sort of a mix-up with fans, because around the time the origin of the Skeletor mini-comic was announced, we had already learned that DC was doing their own Skeletor origin comic coming in the same year. So there were 2 comics done about Skeletor, and they were vastly different. But this last year, well, this year, has led to the final trilogy, as it is, that Fall of Eternia storyline, as Scott envisioned it, and following from previous issue with Axel Jimenez as the artist on the prologue, he got to do the cover for the first time in this 6th issue, as well as the inside pages. And Axel is a huge fan of Masters of the Universe, and much credit to all of his input with these comics in Easter eggs and homages and everything, which we will be talking about in this panel. The following issues that will come this year's December are the 7th and 8th, and they will be packaged with the laser variant He-Man and Skeletor, while the 6th issue was again a subscription exclusive with Olar figure. And there's an interesting story with these last cover images, that on the 8th issue has the scroll with the heads as also in this issue. And it is also prominent in the 7th cover, but apparently there was some mix-up that it was never meant to be in that 7th cover at all. So I don't know what happened there, and I hope it doesn't distract fans from enjoying the issue. But the head roll banner is an interesting one to have, more advertising already in the cover that what we will be getting in the issues. Now let's get to the Easter eggs and homages. We all came here for it. Well, the first minicomic already pays homage to the minicomic it is loosely based on, and that in itself was a Frank Frazetta painting homage, if I recall correctly, but we're not here to talk about that. We'll just stick with these minicomics. And then by the 3rd issue they had also done this somewhat of a reference to the Ultimate Battleground comic with Eternia Towers in the background and He-Man and Skeletor in a constant battle. So surprisingly, the 2nd issue did not have an homage with its cover of He-Man and Hero, though inside the comic they do make the movie reference of Good Journey, which I always liked. And there was one thing that was out of order. Whoopsie. We'll get back to it. One thing with the issue on the prologue story for the Fall of Eternia is that it was the cover was done by Wellington Alves, but on the right side is actually a sketch done by Axel Jimenez, which was a case that because he did the inside pages as well, he was planned to do the cover at the time, but some scheduling hiccup or happened there, so they went with Wellington already doing the cover. And there's also another version that Axel had done, which I personally like. He does the perspective on Castle Grayskull in such a beautiful way. And these will be containing with that 5th issue on all the Easter eggs that are in abundance with it. It's practically on every page there's something. In this case, the chair that it is being sit on is based on the vintage toy Sorcerer's Throne. Let's continue from there. In another panel which is slightly obscured is the upside down rainbow at Trolla from Filmation series, and it was as you can see on the lower panel, the speech bubble is slightly obtruding it. So, and when you have already a mini comic itself, these things are hard to notice, but some fans did, and that's a reward on its own. Going through more panels in the same issue, New Adventures. Skeletor going to meet Lady Slither, and the page is a sort of reversed from the vintage card back of Skeletor advancing on Castle Grayskull, which is an interesting dichotomy, or how you say that. Inside the lair, as we meet Lady Slither on her throne, which has the snakeman symbol in itself. It is reminiscent of King Hiss from the vintage minicomic. With her headdress is inspired by Filmation's Zilora character, which was a pre-Turnian female leader of the clan. Yes, thank you, James. The new characters appearing in the issue are based on the 80s Create a Character contest characters mostly, and they have a couple new additions with Hans Hammer on the right side, and they were fighting the other fan-submitted runner-ups in the issue for the Mattel's Create a Character contest. Looking from that panel alone, we have Jetpack character who is loosely based on the robot or space armor found in the Castle Grayskull sticker sheet, and this is something where Axel has mentioned that it was his idea that the spacesuit would be of Trollan origin in this case. So with the Grayskull cutaway map, it is mentioned there's the Trollan connection to it. And then we had the Man Crystal character who is wielding the staff of Avion from the minicomic, and his appearance with the red robe harkens to the king of Castle Grayskull. Spirit of Grayskull as it is seen. Not sure what the connection was, if there was any more plans to it.
His name's Man Crystal. That's his name?
Yes.
Man Crystal.
Very creative.
Man Crystal.
And here we have, I've already forget the name.
Robo.
Yes, thank you. It's written right there. Which has a bit of a granita parts from Filmation, and I think partially the old Metropolis movie character influence. The heroes are charging the Trollan Temple, and on the lower left side we have Brainwave driving the battle chariot concept by Ted Mayer, which is also seen in the early Alcala Minicomics a couple of times. Or is it just one? Someone will correct me. And looking closer, Hans Hammer is riding Astro Lion from the Meteorbs, which is a deliberate nod from Axel to Joe Amato, who is a big fan of the Meteorbs. As He-Man and Skeletor confront each other, this pose is from the live-action movie, which fans might recognize. The step on the side is also very close to it from what I looked the movie for it, and I always enjoy all the live-action movie references that Axel has inserted in these mini comics, so makes it all the more enjoyable. Here, as He-Man uses his sword to open the gate, it is again from the Alcala Minicomics. Very spot on with the pose and angle on the characters, respectfully. And the key hole that He-Man is using there, that shape is from the vintage Heroes staff. And by the end of the mini-comic, there are a couple references. On the very top right corner, the ship that Unnamed One has is actually based on the Filmation Collector that Skeletor used. And the more obvious one is the Demo Man pose there with concept art by Mark Taylor. And in front pages we have mysterious characters going up on the grave of Keldor, and the middle one is based on Filmation's Xanthor, who was the guardian of Golden Discs of Knowledge and became Zodak's partner.
His life partner.
Yes. With the weapons from 2002 cartoon series, and the character on the left side is of the same race as Sagitton, yeah, which makes the world of cosmic enforcers all the more diverse. I went this through very fast, and hope you enjoyed it. Let's see, the one that actually was the one that went awry was that these mini comics, they started out with highlighting the new characters created by Mattel's design team and the Four Horsemen with Drago Man and the Spectre, and Sir Laser-Lot by Jeff Johns and Side Chop in there, and Fearless Photog, which was already the EDs, but one is missing, and that is Castle Grayskull. Hopefully Daniel would appreciate that he will make appearance. You'll just have to wait for it.
Supposed to be that big? He looks huge. Is he big? Is he like big?
No, that is a close-up from a battle scene.
As in like his leg is behind the mister? Isn't it?
Well, in that angle, yeah, it looks like it. There was a better image than on the cover of issue 3, where Drago Man also makes his appearance.
Yes. Piece of Castle Grayskull, is it a fan-based thing, or is it cut out from a minicomic?
You'll have to wait until December.
Ah!
But thank you, everyone. Hope you enjoyed this.